Hello, everybody. Welcome to Demand the Truth again. Thank you for joining us. I am the host here, Will Turbit, and I'm going to be joined by a special guest, a blockchain expert advisor, in just one moment. Before I do, I want to give you guys a brief update about a few things that have been going on. First and foremost, anybody that's new here or just tuning in for the first time, if you don't know, Demand the Truth is a nonpartisan, peaceful media organization, and we pursue truth through using the Socratic method. So like I said, we're peaceful, nonpartisan, and pursue information through the Socratic method. That's the most important thing I want you to know. In the meantime, just a quick update on the DCYF CPS thing that's going on and the Gina Raimondo thing. A lot of people have watched that video, and some people are saying, well, maybe that wasn't the best way to address Gina Raimondo. And I've tried to have a sit down with Gina Raimondo, which was unsuccessful. I've also tried to speak with Gina Raimondo before that, and that was also unsuccessful. And that's on my YouTube channel, YouTube.com/Demand the Truth, and all the other platforms that we're on. So you could check that out there. And that's the reason why I asked her, and I'll continue to ask her. And I don't care really about being polite. I'm going to be peaceful. But when we have 45 missing kids in just 2015, and then we don't even know the numbers yet in 2016, 2017, and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in a FOIA request and see if we can get some of the information about those missing kids and get to the bottom of this. I'm not done with that by a long shot. And one of the other things, the last thing I'll say before we get to our guest too, is I was given by somebody a pair of tickets right here to Mystic Aquarium. 2 tickets, absolutely free. They're good until the end of March this year. And it's going to be a quick little contest. So whoever goes, I'm going to put this video, I'm going to share it afterwards, put it in the comments. I have this video that I'm going to share. It's our initial episode. And the reason I'm looking to have it shared is because before, I mean, this last Gina Raimondo video, for whatever reason, did pretty well. I think it's just because the majority of people here in Rhode Island and worldwide despise her. But before that, I've seen a stark decrease on the views on my videos. So it's going to be a video I shared. It's called Demand the Truth Returns. And I think there's a lot of, it's not just me talking in that one. There's a lot of clips from people in the media, people in the military, and people in the government. And I think it's very, very shocking. I think if we got enough people to see that, people would start thinking critically, open their eyes to the bigger problems, start having some debate and discourse. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm not financed like Fox News or CNN by anybody, big pharma, large corporations, or even the government themselves in some cases. So without further ado, the 3 biggest things that I think that are going on that I can offer the world are the Socratic method, fighting for the lives of these innocent children, but also blockchain technology. Now, a couple months ago, I was looking, because I look for every way I can peacefully to try to make a change somehow, and theorizing about, should I get into politics one way? Should we run a voluntary party? Should we run our own people? How can we take over? We live in this small state. How can we take over and make things better? And I spent the whole day philosophizing on, is that even a good idea? Is the system just going to change you more? I spent literally like 8 hours, and I do this all day, every day anyways. But that day, 16 hours, and then I got in a video chat with this blockchain expert here, and it wasn't even until the next day until Josh Friedman came up and said, Will, do you realize how important what he was talking about was? And a couple quick things I'll say is the head of Overstock.com recently said, I'm paraphrasing, about a month ago, he said blockchain technology is the biggest revolution or the biggest thing in history. And also, I attended a conference recently in Boston, and one of the speakers there mentioned how the top 20 companies, as far back as 2015, 2016, had either research and development or their very own blockchains going on as far back as that time period. So this is something that's coming up, but most people don't know about it, and that's why I'm glad to welcome Quintin Tevyaw, blockchain expert advisor, to the show. Quintin, thanks for being here. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what's going on with this blockchain stuff? We'll get into that in a sec, I guess. But who is Quintin? Welcome.
How's it going? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I myself, once again, my name is Quintin Tevyaw. I'm a blockchain advisor, trading specialist, in my own opinion. Not that anybody's a specialist at this point in the market, but a miner and node operator. I also do PR and social media, strategies for various companies. And I also host my own business in collaboration with many others called Professionals. And as a side to that, I've been in the space for about 4 years, not as long as some, but for technology that is dated back almost 40 years. I'm in the first, decade of its real boom and show of its power in the sense of a blockchain and not just a payment system. And other than that, I don't know how to brag, so
so yeah, so let's get right into it too. And I think it's interesting because I consider myself somebody that's pretty well read and well researched. I'd heard about cryptocurrencies and I thought I had understood their importance and their significance a couple years ago. And since thanks to you and Josh Friedman, but especially you really enlightening me on the situation, I've really understood how important blockchain is. But since the last couple months that I've been getting into this, I've been asking people, hey, do you know about blockchain? And most people don't, they just get this glaze. And then you say, hey, well, do you know about Bitcoin? And they're like, oh, yeah. So let's take it, baby, is blockchain technology in the first place, and what is really going on here? Why is it so important that, all these top companies and, the head of Overstock is saying this is going to be the biggest thing of all time? What's going on here? What is blockchain?
The best way to describe blockchain, explain it as a photo album inside of a digital on its little memory disk, which everybody can relate to. Just like an SD card you put in your camera, remembers all your photos. And you can look through your camera to see all your photos. Well, to me, in my opinion, the easiest way to describe blockchain. Because what really is happening is, if me and you have a transaction, say I want to send you this pen, and I want $1 for this pen, but I can't prove that you're going to pay me the $1 for this pen until I send it to you. Now, we could use traditional methods like eBay. The idea there is that or actually, I'm gonna hold back. We'll get there. I want to send you this pen for $1. Through blockchain, I can send you this pen for $4, untaxed, unbothered, and borderline anonymously. There are transaction hashes. People can argue that statement. It is non-anonymous. However, it is decentralized as long as the government doesn't take control of it. Now, the idea behind that is that this pen becomes priced at whatever I want. Pen becomes mine, the value in it becomes and the ability to permanently store different databases. In this case, the database is a computer. So when I sell you this pen, and that transaction goes through, the information is not just recorded on your computer or my computer, not just a piece of paper receipt, but every computer that touches blockchain or that specific blockchain. Due to that, it's like taking a digital image. So we trade items. It takes a picture of the fact that we traded items, but prior, it took a picture of us both having the items that we were trading, and then afterwards, it took a picture of us both with the new items. All of those pictures were stored in a digital photo album and distributed to every computer on the chain. That way, you can't delete it, I can't delete it. And even if 100 other people delete it, it's still there, making it impossible to make a falsified transaction, which is really that's the underlying power in blockchain tech. In the difference between, in a very basic sense, what Bitcoin is, which everybody knows the name of, and what blockchain is, which is very much confused for being Bitcoin, is that Bitcoin is only a payment method. Blockchain is an underlying mathematical, almost perfection phenomenon of permanently storing and recording information.
So, yeah, and so I could be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, but due to what you've taught me over the last couple months, here's how things normally work. So you have Facebook, you have PayPal, MasterCard, Apple, Google, all these companies, and they keep all of our information that they store and sell to third parties, by the way. That's completely out there if anybody doesn't know that. they keep all of our personal on these massive private servers that are located in their companies. So when MasterCard gets hacked, their servers are all in MasterCard, and that's why, you get emails from people.
Not to cut you off, but not even just that, but they also privately sell your data for those companies as well and make a huge profit off your personal information. There's also a huge issue in, personal, private, decentralized data space.
That's one of the most important things. So now, like, if I wanted to hack some, like, John Smith's page and make him, change his name to something goofy, all I'd have to do is hack the Facebook servers. But if Facebook was on a blockchain, that would mean it's not just Facebook's private servers. It's on my computer, it's on Quintin's computer, it's on Stan's computer, it's on somebody in Zimbabwe, somebody in South Africa, somebody in Russia, somebody in China, all across the world. So right now, anybody could just go hack one group of servers and take those down. But nothing that I am aware, no exists that I'm aware of yet, could simultaneously hack millions of separate computers simultaneously, all the things that happened before that. And the great part about it, as Quintin just mentioned, is this information is encrypted. So let's go back to what you were talking about, because I think it's important. Bitcoin is the payment, is a payment, a ramification, if you will, of the blockchain. But there's other ramifications, there's other consequences of this blockchain. But if you would first explain, kind of how blockchain works, and the reason it's successful, and then we can talk about some of the other applications of the blockchain and blockchain technology.
Absolutely. So blockchain technology is, number one, successful because of the first thing that I believe personally, which is that the mathematical equation that makes up a blockchain is near perfection for a memory system. And the utilization of a memory system like that hasn't even been utilized to its max capacity. Nobody's trying to put this inside of a computer CPU yet. Nobody's trying to put this in a memory card for your phone yet, except for very few, and they're very unseen. But the underlying tech inside of it is invaluable. It can't be valued because it just produces value itself. And in some of the ways that we can see this, in other ways other than payment method, is say, I was just talking about a phone, so I might as well go there. It's in phone service or say Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi costs a lot of money. Big data charges a lot of money for their big data, and that data doesn't cost anything. It costed setting up a warehouse one time, paying a maintenance fee, which is basically making sure the place stays clean and nobody touches your circuit boards. So, in that sense, what you're paying for barely exists. So you could create a system where, say, one computer becomes a node by holding a certain amount of a coin. We'll call this coin Wi-Fi coin for example. Now you have Wi-Fi coin on your computer and you download the blockchain. So does every other person who wants to use Wi-Fi coin. And you pay for your Wi-Fi in Wi-Fi coin. Well, obviously the next question is where the Wi-Fi comes from. Well, the idea is that just like a personal hotspot that you can turn on, there are plenty of ways to create bandwidth. And if you have many computers, so in an example, say you have a city full of people using Wi-Fi coin. Now you are paying somebody else for their hotspot when you might not have a hotspot to give out. But when you have a hotspot to give out, they pay you. Now you have a constant give and take, and nobody goes over on data charges ever with their phone company, purely because everybody is sharing Wi-Fi, but not really sharing.
This is confusing me a little bit, though. Where's the big company in the middle that acts as the taxer and charges you for the service? Because where's that?
Well, that's the beauty of it. Is right now the entire space is unregulated. It's being attacked in many forms, from the Federal Exchange Commission to the SEC, to the CIA. Many people are trying to put as many regulations that they can on blockchain right now. Even during our government shutdown, which I could in a minute. But the big company doesn't exist in this case. It is that for once, again, in America, and not just in America, the world, period. Everybody has free entrepreneurship. If you think it, you can go and make it, and there's nobody stopping you. There's not a law against it. There is not a regulation against it. There is no reason to not go and try in blockchain right now, even if you don't know what you're doing. You can find somebody who can, and then you can build a team who can.
So let's talk about that. What are some of the other things besides currency? Because, as you educated me, Bitcoin, the reason Bitcoin is successful is, and correct me if I'm wrong, based on what I'm hearing from you and others, is the fact that Bitcoin is successful is because it has that blockchain, it has that ledger that can't be hacked, right? And that's in contrast to the US dollar. The US dollar is printed by the Federal Reserve, which is a private bank, has no reserves, is not federal, and has never ever been audited in over a years, just printing money out of thin air. So you have Bitcoin here where you know what's going on with the transactions, it's encrypted, and the federal government, the Federal Reserve printing this money out of thin air, there's a value in having that Bitcoin, the value of the US dollar backed by oil or gold. Obviously, that's not the case any longer. So there's that financial aspect, and not just Bitcoin, but there's several other large coins and altcoins that are pretty prominent going on right now. But what are some other applications of the blockchain that people might want to be aware of?
Absolutely. So an example of that, we have many utilities utilized. The most valuable, in my opinion, being anonymity. But starting on general use cases, you have everything from companies that can pop up through blockchain and perfectly recording every piece of information and storing it everywhere. Nobody's ever going to be able to lie on that, especially with technology that, like Progressive pushes out all the time, where so many times you push the brake and went. Things like that eventually will be incorporated into such a technology, and people will be rewarded as such in what is a payment method, but is not. In an example of a non-payment method, you have a voting mechanism. So, in an extremist case, let's take the U.S. presidential campaign. You already have a handful of people, and we already have to choose from those people. Now, with blockchain, that's not how shit works. You can show us 5 people on TV, but the internet gets to make the choice. And the blockchain makes the decision in the end, according to its orders. The only thing that stipulates a situation like that from not working, in case they didn't remember, is the fact that obviously a blockchain can go global. So you have the issue of making sure other countries can't. I think this problem can be solved with an identification number, and that's the end of it.
So I think I don't want you to skip over this, because I think in my, I believe in voluntarism, and I hopefully one day we can develop or evolve to the point, if you will, where we don't need masters to enslave us. But meantime, yeah. So, but in the meantime, we are in this matrix, if you will. We are, having to vote, and like you said, we have these few chosen people who are set in front of us. More often than not, they're pretty bad choices, on both sides. But what we could do is, and what happens now, and like I said at the beginning of this video, I can't speak for any of my guests, but myself here at Demand the Truth, we're nonpartisan. So we don't like the Democrats or the Republicans. We think they both have some good ideas on some things, and others, probably not. But so this is where I think blockchain could be very, very important and kind of change the game. Is as far back as the Bush elections, we had the Diebold voting machines, which were adjudicated in courts on video. Anybody can look it up on YouTube, that those machines were hacked. They did have that election rigged. Then you can just type into YouTube. It happened here in Rhode Island, at least one case this past election. It happens every single election where they randomly switch, or they could get hacked, or they have to shut a voting machine down. And then if you have a place where there's paper ballots or even electronic ballots, what happens is certain towns and cities are run by the Democrats. And if the Democrats say, oh man, there's a couple extra Republican things right here, we're going to get rid of those, Oh, and the place that Republicans win, be like, oh man, there's a lot of Democratic votes here. I'm gonna just forget about those votes. And we actually, I'm not talking out of my butt, because we've had the New York head of elections talk about this type of stuff with this video of people on both sides of the aisle destroying these votes. But right now, what could happen is, everybody, people don't have any problem sitting at home voting for American Idol. Just imagine if American Idol, instead of being American Idol, it was American government, and instead of those votes going to a private server by a private company, they were on the blockchain, so they could not rig that. Can you just imagine what the world would be like if we employ blockchain technology just for voting, which I don't even necessarily believe in? I mean, that would change the entire paradigm. This could destroy banks. But continue, Quintin. I think this technology is really amazing. That's why it's right up there. This is something that we could do in kind of, this to me, like I told you, many is like the Wild West. And I think that there's some pretty nefarious people that are getting into this. And I would like you to speak to this too, because there are some white papers out there talking about uploading your conscious to the blockchain and artificial intelligence. But I also feel like there's good people like yourself out there. And if people were to step up and start learning about blockchain technology, it could empower the ordinary person, no matter what race, color, creed, or however you identify, against the higher power structures that are taking to us. So could you talk about some of the maybe not so nice players in this game, and then also just to what I said about the blockchain being the Wild West, and what do we really have at our hands right now?
Absolutely, and they're gonna hate me for it, but I'm gonna play the major bad guys game. So you have the god of crypto, so to speak. You have gold. You have that reserve. That's Bitcoin. That was Bitcoin's main intention. If you take the 21 million supply of Bitcoin, you max it out, and you divide it by population, you end up with a mathematical equation that comes out to 0.003. So if Bitcoin were to be true, it would only take 0.003 Bitcoin to live its status everyday normal life. That's how much the product should be worth by its completion, its depletion. And that is the ultimate bad guy. And it was seen as the ultimate winner in the beginning, because the whole idea was long Bitcoin, short the bankers. If we hold Bitcoin, then that's it. It goes up in value. The bankers don't have a chance to buy into it. And eventually, it's worth more than the bank, and now we win. That was the whole initial idea for taking over the infrastructure of a payment system that has been rigged since the beginning. That idea has been abused, tarnished by the U.S. government, many things being pushed even during the government shutdown just now, and everything from the backed agreement to the next bad guy I'm going to name, who have fun with my Twitter and the promotion there from 2 years ago over the subject, but Ripple, which will now become the new SWIFT system, which many people might not know what Ripple is, or XRP, the cryptocurrency blockchain. But I'm sure they know what the International Monetary Transfer System is, which is SWIFT. So the SWIFT system is how they move money from, say, the U.S. to Russia. Well, to move money from the U.S. to Russia and keep the banks even at the proportions they're supposed to at the end of X quarter, they have to physically move money. And they have to pay people to physically move that money. Not only just from a truck, but then in a plane, ports in XYZ. All of the different in between. Move you $138,000 for 20 cents. And it happens in 30 seconds. There's no reason for them not to beat out the current system. And there's no reason the government wouldn't manipulate it. And if you look at their entire, I don't know how to say it, business plan, their model of who they targeted, they went after banks like Santander. They went after, I'll leave it there. But the Ripple system is just one more step of the government trying to take over what the people created as the decentralized space. So you do have good players and you have bad players. And the good players are people like, I'm gonna have to say this, even though it's controversially hated in real news, which is that Monero is actually one of the real players who's helping society. their ledgers only read X's. So in other words, if I want to send you a pen for that dollar, nobody will ever know because the ledger reads X, send X to X for X. Period. That's it. That's all it says. So in that scenario, you have 100% anonymity, nothing more valuable right now in the world back here. So you also have good guys like that, but it's being used for bad things.
Gotcha.
Money washing,
So,
etc.
yes.
So, you have these good guys, these bad guys, and then you have the good guys who have been abused for the bad senses. But last good guy case, if I could, is I'm going to give it to someone like totally they're nonpartisan to anything that's upsetting. So I'll give it to Cycoin. They're actually kind of underrated right now. And all Cycoin is offering is an extreme data storing system, kind of like a Dropbox or something like that, where you can store tons of data for very cheap. And there are nobody's side except paying cheaper than Dropbox. So you have plenty of good guys in this, and the ramifications of it span anywhere from payment systems, whether international, in one town or not, to making your own cryptocurrency, sell your clothing, to literally creating your own insurance company backed by people who lock in their coins to back your company, just like people who own shares, but they're not allowed to sell them for 5 years or something like that. So there's plenty of ramifications, and you have good guys and bad guys, and it really comes down to paying attention to your companies and the teams that back them and watching them carefully right now.
So that leads right into my next question, which is, now that we're aware, myself and the audience, of this blockchain revolution, what does the future hold? Because to me, it seems like if we can restruct and the media acts and all these payment processors and voting, that seems like quite a very dramatic shift to the world we're currently living in. Would I be wrong? Like, where does all this go in the next 5, 10, 15 years? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, absolutely. I think that as a use case, it could go everywhere. It could honestly be man's greatest evolution. And I don't mean evolution in its typical sense. I mean just evolution in the fact that we all get to move on. And I also believe that it could be its absolute greatest downfall due to the fact that it has impeccable ability to track you. It has impeccable ability to never forget, never be able to delete information. And I think without getting into the places where we originally wanted it when it was created, which seems to have been, or rather a problem that seems to be ignorantly ignored from the creation, is all the money that already existed and their ability to buy up the product. So now we have a possible control issue, and it's staying here could be, in the worst sense, it could be the biggest way to track us ever. It could be they'll know every time you open your microwave, just so they can send the information to Kraft mac and cheese, and they'll know every time you buy broccoli and put it in your fridge because the fridge knew there was broccoli in it. And the fridge remembered, and they put it in 48 computers or 108 computers or 1,000 computers, etc. Depending on how many people have broccoli coin or whatever, doesn't matter. So the idea here that it could go that south, or in my opinion, and this is actually my real belief, which is that it could get much worse than that, and they could put, I almost misspoke. They could put everything that we know of conceptually into a state of tracking. Never mind your phone, never mind all the cameras, never mind all the blah 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 and the GPSs. Everything you touch could become tracked. And it could become tracked in that way due to the fact that you had to purchase it, and it came from a store, and it came from a manufacturer, and those aren't just numbers anymore. They're permanently stored information on everybody's everything. There is no more anonymity, even though it's the greatest anonymity thing ever created. Which is why I have to praise people like Monero, even though I'm sure they're being used for, significantly terrible things. But at the same time, if I went and bought my pair at the store and they were using grocery chain, I wouldn't have to be worried about buying my pair and somebody knowing that Quintin Tevyaw bought a pair and brought it home and ate it, and that he likes pears. And I think that information should be kept private. I don't think it's any of their marketing business. I think that targeted advertising is fun. I'd rather have an advertising that I care about and I have interest in than an advertisement that I don't. But if I have a choice between somebody tracking my opinions, movements, and understandings, I prefer to stay out of my brain. And so we have everything from AI, talking about brain here, that could remember everything. So in one use case example, let's take one project actually being held up by, I believe, CIA or in collaboration with a couple different colleges. It's not a private thing, public. They created a robot with an insane memory. They're not stating how the memory was created. I personally believe it's goddamn well a blockchain. It's the only way to do it, in my opinion. But what they're doing is anybody who's willing to can bring in an old photo. They can scan it into this computer, this memory system. And the idea is that eventually they'll have enough photos scanned into this memory system that it can never forget. That you can actually see the physical past play out just by looking into this machine, let's say a VR goggle. Because it's seen everything due to all of the pictures that it's actually seen and scanned in and can't forget. So you can type in a year by when the photo was taken. In that timeline, you can find all the photos that were scanned into the computer in that timeline, and then look through the timeline, almost like you're looking into the past completely. Amazing, amazing ramifications, horrifying things that could be done with it if it was used improperly. And I think that our number one fight in that fight, which is a fight, is being aware of the teams that you support, companies you support, and remembering why the technology was created in the first place.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And I think you're absolutely bringing this topic to the audience here, which is this is a real us versus them. Like the blockchain technology is so new that it's like Quintin said, it's either going to be like our consciousness and AI, and they have a picture of everything that happened and everything that they did, or we can really take this technology because it's just like anything else, fire or the wheel. And we could take this technology and completely reshape society for better for the average person, and not, the top governmental heads, the top think tank members, and the top corporate heads. We could really, really take out the bankers without having to do even a protest. And by take them out, I mean peacefully, of course. But lastly, Quintin, I don't know if you can even give me any privy at all into this, but I know you're working on several projects. Is there anything that you want the audience to know about, or should we wait for that for the next episode? I definitely wanted people to come here and get an understanding of blockchain technology, because I think, like you said, this is a game changer. This is something that can completely reshape the entire society that we're living under. So I think it's important that people start understanding it. And I'd rather have the average person understanding it rather than, some of the worst characters that have gotten involved recently too. So do you want to talk about your project? Should we tease that till next time? Or if not, what's the best way that people can get in contact with you?
Not for any lack of disappointment, I'm going to tease it. But only due to just trying to make sure I don't want to say anything that I can't say. That is, I only want to say the truth here on your show, and I appreciate being on it. And I want to say that anybody who wants to can find certain backwards, Tevyaw Quintin, and I'm usually giving out relevant blockchain information.
Yes, he absolutely is. He's on the forefront of what's going on there on Twitter, and that's where a lot of the activity is happening. But for the lay person out there that hasn't really heard about blockchain, and I'll be honest with you, it took a few times. I mean, I sat there for hours with Quintin and other people. I still didn't get it, and I was like, "Oh, explain it again," and this and that. And then even afterwards, I went to YouTube and I watched. I just typed in "blockchain for dummies." And then I watched the first 5 videos, and then I was like, oh, okay, I get it a little better now. So if you're still in a glaze after this video, don't feel bad, because I was, even for the first few days. But this is something that I think...
Feel free. My DMs are closed, not to interrupt, but my DMs are closed. letting people know what is blockchain and answering those specific questions that they come with, probably half the confusing things I said tonight. I'm more than happy to help people understand, because that's half the fight.
Well, yes, thank you, Quintin. Thank you for pulling me out of my slumber when it came to blockchain technology, because I do consider myself, I used to consider myself revolutionary, but as the president of the internet says, a revolution is a full circle back to where you started. So I want to evolve and I want us to be better. So, I like to consider myself an evolutionary, and this is one of the playing fields that anybody that wants to take action, and we need to take action here too, because I think this is almost right up there with some of the missing kids, because if we could restructure, reduce the amount of trafficking and unaccountability that these people have in the cash flow. So that would kind of be like, in the olden, digging out their railroad and their ammunitions. So this could be another way to do it. And I'll say on that, I'll end off on these 2 points. You guys, please help press this missing children issue. Any information that you guys get would be helpful. Like I said, I'm going to file a FOIA request and see what we can get. There's very, very scant amount of information on this topic, especially here in Rhode Island. And let me just tell you quickly, there's still people out there that like Gina Raimondo. Let me tell you, Gina Raimondo is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, which is a terrible organization. She's also a Rhodes Scholar. People say, oh, Rhodes Scholar, that's great. Well, the Rhodes Scholarship was set up by the Rothschild and Cecil Rhodes for racist, sexist reason to create British dominance. And she's also a member of the Aspen Institute, which is financed by the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, Bill and Melinda Gates, the Ford Foundation. And she's heavily connected to some of these top people. And I think we're in such a place in Rhode Island that if we start exposing what's going on now, that could have other ramifications that go down. So we have to be on these different, and we can't just give up. Last thing I'll say, thank you again, Quintin, but these are the tickets right here. Check these out. I'm going to share the video after this, and whoever gets the most shares within the next week, so from 5:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week, whoever shares Demand the Truth Returns, that video, and this video too, whoever shares that video the most will get these free tickets. And if you're not in the New England area, you can take them and donate them or give them to somebody, or you can go there and protest if you don't like the fish locked up, however you want to do that, or you burn them or do whatever you want and protest. But they're free, and someone gave them. Very special thanks to that person, because we're, like I said, we're not financed like Fox News or CNN. I'm just doing this myself because, hey,